Around the NFL podcast. Works harder at home than at the office.
What's an office? Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL podcast. My name is Dan Hansis. I come to you from a virtual room filled with some heroes. Greg Rosenthal. And back on the show. And what a treat. Matt Money Smith. Yes. Now we're back to work. Greg, this is the beginning now. This is the beginning.
It feels like it. You know, NFL Now returned today, the television show, which sometimes puts us on. Matt Money Smith has hosted it in the past. That's like
we had a standing segment, actually. I, Rosie.
We did.
Yeah.
They would like show little highlights. It does feel like we're like cranking back up. We have 2 podcasts this week. We have a TV show this week. It is like buckle up until February.
How about you, Money?
You ready? You ready for that, Dan?
Oh, I'm ready.
Yeah, more importantly for you, the stars of NFL Network's Around the NFL, the stars of the Around the NFL podcast. Look, the content you two, along with Sessler and whichever heroes you choose to designate in any given week, and Erica, look, that is critical to the success or failure of NFL Network and NFL digital properties. What I do, look, you guys are think of it as you're the granite, right? You're the granite, you're the marble, and I am simply the caulk that goes between those tiles to make sure that
everybody loves
floor
caulk,
is walkable. Though. You know, that's the word on the street. Although it feels like maybe it's becoming less and less important. You know, like now there's self-sticking tiles, and we don't need as much caulk as we used to.
The world needs caulk. It's important. Hey, Money, by the way, did we find out, speaking of assignments, did our power rankings show get picked up for 2021? Do we know that yet? Our television program?
Not to share too much, but if it were, even though today in Seal Beach, as I look out my window, it is a glorious 75 and sunny. The forecast for the future of money is anything but sunny and 75. It's a bit cloudy and uncertain at this particular point. So I am not sure. I hope Power Rankings comes back. I hope I'm part of it. And because, you know, as far as I was concerned, it was an anchor. I mean, it was an anchor on which a day's programming was built around. You know, like they would drop Power Rankings in, like, okay, if we put this at 3 Eastern, we can move this to 2, and then that way, we can help. Power Rankings can help carry that as a lead in, and then it'll help build.
It wasn't an
audience
anchor that like dragged everything else down.
No, it's not an albatross. Not an albatross.
What about let's get away from the anchor, because Greg makes a good point. There's some negative connotations there.
Sure,
we were the sun and the planets.
That works.
That works.
We were the
including
of the NFL,
including Greg's show, the one with Hawk and Cynthia. That one. That's like a little like the planet that got run out of town. Which one got run out of town? The planet that was Uranus, was it?
Pluto.
Pluto got popped in a big spot.
Pluto is nothing but a rock now. It is no longer a planet. But I would assume if Greg's Pick'em Pluto returns, right? I believe the Pick'em show is certainly going to come back.
It's coming back. Coming back. This is like a fake. they don't plan anything, and you don't know anything. And you've been around this company long enough. You don't know anything until about mid-August. So this is like a fake first week back, because the teams aren't really back. This is more us just like, all right, this is like the beginning of the workout routine as we're starting to get ready for the big fight. It's the very beginnings.
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Greg, because as a distance runner, I would love for you to share with the Around the NFL audience what kind of warm-upper are you when it comes to running your marathons? Are you a butt kicker? Are you a high knees? Like, do you kind of sprint back and forth in the parking lot before the gun fires off? Or are you just like, whatever, I'm going to crush this banana, take a leak on this tree, and I'm running 26.2?
I don't really warm up. I guess, I only did a marathon once, but for the halves or stuff, I don't think, maybe I just ate a banana and you go.
There you go.
I like the butt kicker following by the pee on the tree.
Right?
That would be my call.
Butt kicker, high knees, super short dolphin shorts. You know,
definitely
the
a headband
top. Yeah, I could see Greg doing the 2 fingers in the Vaseline though, and rubbing his nipples before he takes off.
Oh yeah. Chafing's a problem. I definitely use the Vaselines on the nipples. There you go. You make that mistake without it once, and you don't do it again.
Greg, well known for his bloody nips.
All right, and we're off.
It's going to be news heavy. We're going to get caught up here because, yes, we've been doing one show a week for a bit now, but we're going to have a show today, Monday, Thursday. And by the way, we don't need it on the subreddit. Get off Twitter. Just relax. Enjoy the summer. And I know the Delta variant's out there, so I'm not going to say everything's great now.
It's out there.
And just, and to act like nothing's wrong. But Mark's fine. Mark's going to be here on Thursday. And I hope. And if he's not, then worry. If Mark's not on the show on Thursday, worry. And then we have
right. Is that the issue with Mark? Mark's got COVID?
Mark does not have COVID, and I apologize if I wasn't clear enough. I don't know what Mark is. I don't know where he's at physically. I just know that he's alive and he's still with the company, and he'll be back Thursday. And then we'll be back with the network show on Friday. And before we get to the news, just want to ask a question. And I'll start with you, Mr. Rosenthal, with your Vaseline nips. Do you do a Vaseline nip right before a podcast?
I mean, I don't do it anymore. That was only for like a long race. I'm not running too far anymore.
Did you ever let someone else apply it, or was it always self-application? The wife ever handle it?
I mean, that's not the only place the Vaseline is going. So yeah, you don't wash your hands after that.
It's the late night pod. We're gonna have to wait till after Justin Graver filling in for Ricky. Nobody's coming to the show anymore.
ATN after dark.
That's this one has to go up after midnight on the East Coast. Justin, all right. Before we get into the news, Greg, as we get back into the swing of things, we're not quite there. We're getting there, just like the NFL's getting there. But what would be something that would jolt you out of this offseason malaise that we found ourselves in?
Yeah, I choose to view it like you do, just enjoying the summer. Once it went down to Money's neck of the woods, and Ohtani delivered us a home run. It's like it was worth the price of admission to go there, even though they lost. It's really, they're doing this thing where they're starting all the training camps on the same day, which I think will add to this phenomenon even more. For me, it's the news flow of the first 3 days of training camp. So there's nothing that's going to do it in the next 12 days. I always think like I still am a news junkie, and I'm waiting for that news flow to get rolling to get my juices flowing, because I think it will. Because more happens in the first 4 or 5 days of training camp, I would say, to change how you're thinking about this season than happen from the draft on, or really almost from free agency on. And I'll admit it, I am having harder time this year to get the engine revving. I mean, it's because of Chris, and at least for me, it's because this is going to be the first season without Chris. And because after the year we've gone through, not just the pandemic, but obviously Chris, that we needed this time away. And so cranking it back up and getting ready for this first season we've ever done without him. I mean, he's been part of my football season since 2009. And so that's it. But I do think that it's injuries, it's position battles, it's contract, it's different things. Like you have this whole idea and everyone just starts copying each other, and there's all these season previews out and they're all great and everything. And really I think you learn a lot in the first week of training camp, more than the entire offseason, because the teams and the season and the players are always way different than you think they are. You think they are where you left them off last year, but they're just not. It's just not how it's going to be. Right. Some players are going to rise, some are going to fall. And I think the news hound in me will get cranking once those first 3 or 4 days start rolling through.
How about you, Money?
Well, I hate to say it, but because I know what's going to happen, but I think when we finally get that closure that Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay and he's going to be a Packer this year, that to me signals, all right, we're in. We're moving, because I do think he's going to show up before, at the start of training camp. I don't think he's going to hold out. I don't think we're going to get any of that. And I think that'll signal that all of the offseason rhetoric, could he be a Bronco? Could he be a Steeler? That'll come to an end, right? And it's, are Aaron Rodgers and the Packers going to win the NFC this year after knocking on the door of the last two, and we get back to football conversation, not off-season what ifs.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was the first thing that popped into my mind, and I find myself just generally maybe annoyed's not the right word, but just as I'm enjoying this summer, and it's been a lot of travel. I just got back from Denver. I'm in Texas now. I was in New Jersey before that, and this Aaron Rodgers thing. Every time I'm at a bar or something, like ESPN or probably our network too, are inventing these stories to what is Aaron Rodgers going to do? Where is he going to be next? And ultimately, as we know, the Packers hold all the cards. He's under contract. and they're in no place to trade the best quarterback in the league coming off his MVP season. So I think he's going to be there. But once we get that news and you can put that story to bed, we can start talking about real football again. I'll throw one more name out there. Nobody really likes talking about it right now, but it's Deshaun Watson with the sexual assault allegations around him. At the same time, before that broke, of course, he wanted out of Houston, and he wanted out of Houston in a real bad way. And Adam Schefter at ESPN reported, not really reported, but speculated that there is no team, quote, better positioned to trade for Deshaun Watson than the Eagles. We know the Eagles seem to be we don't know, but it feels like the Eagles are a little wishy-washy about Jalen Hurts, and we know they got Carson Wentz out of town. Of course, though, is in the backseat until his legal situation plays out. And even beyond the legal side of things, what happens in the courts, whether it's civil or criminal courts, what happens with the NFL's decision as well. Like, does he go on the commissioner exempt list? Does he not go on the list? And if he doesn't go on the list, do the Houston Texans have an opportunity to trade him? That would be, if something changed on this front in a substantial way, that to me would be a jolt. Like, whoa, this is a huge story with a lot of implications all over the place. What happens with Deshaun Watson?
I do, that Eagles thing popped up, and it did get you thinking, like, oh yeah, he could play for another team this year.
Right.
Right.
That's what I mean.
It's like, I don't know. I think that process is going to take a minute, because I think you're going to have to get the legal decision. Then you're going to have to get the NFL decision, unless they're prepared to make one quickly. But if for some reason by mid-August, the NFL has suspended him for 8 games, then I would absolutely think that trades are now on the table. Like, once a team like the Eagles or whoever else would be interested, Denver would be the other one I would circle. Like, once they have some definition of what he's actually going to miss, it's like, I would think that trade will happen sooner than later. Like, I think why wait around if you're Houston? They can get a lot.
100%, except, and especially if he is suspended for half the season, let's say it is considerably different than the Packers situation, right? Where you're trading your player somewhere that is going to then devalue, your assets that you received in return. If Deshaun's out for 8 games, it's, okay, let's get as much as we can. Let's move on and make a clean break as quickly as possible. Especially, let's say if it's the Eagles and you get Jalen Hurts in return, and you are actually getting a young quarterback that you wouldn't mind getting a look-see for a year as to whether or not, this may be your quarterback moving forward. So I think that's certainly more likely than, look, anything's more likely than Aaron Rodgers getting traded at this point. But it's funny you brought that up, Dan, because I had completely forgotten. And that is one thing that Aaron Rodgers managed to do to the mess that Deshaun Watson and the Texans are in, is completely overshadow it, because, it's 100 times more popular in terms of the player and the franchise, and the storyline.
And the media doesn't want to,
don't want to touch it,
including us, but especially like these big networks, NFL Network, ESPN, who have partnerships with the NFL and have really struggled to talk about this Deshaun Watson thing, because it is a hard thing to talk about.
I'll give you just a tiny example. It's minuscule in terms of the scope, but last week we talked about it. I had the Superstar Club piece on NFL.com, and I break it down into categories, and Deshaun Watson is sitting in the quarterback club. And then one of our editors, who it was the right thing to do, I guess it's a conversation to have, like, do you want to take him out of this article until things shake out? I don't know. Nobody really knows what to do with Deshaun Watson because of the uncertainty surrounding him in so many ways.
Really could be the whole year too. I don't think it would surprise me if the NFL, well, first, if the legal thing takes a while and we just don't get any clarity, but if the NFL made a statement in that he's just gone for the year, and you say, okay, let's revisit this. And
look, we're going through it right now in baseball, right? With Trevor Bauer, it was like, he's going to make the start on Sunday. Oh no, he's out for 7 days, and he's out for another 7 days, and now he's out for another 7 days. And I think, as far as the league is concerned, they're content to just say, hey man, you're paying the guy. We just don't want his face anywhere. We don't want the name. We don't want, the storyline. So this is our way of dealing with it. And I think you're right, Greg. That to me makes the most sense. That he's not someone we're gonna probably hear from anytime soon. But again, like, not to get too deep down this hole, and I know that wasn't your intention, Dan, and I know people probably don't like hearing about it, but I think people fail to recognize, like, how little the NFL has to do with this. I mean, this is a legal issue. There are courts involved. There are pending charges involved. Whether or not it's going to be a civil case or a criminal case, that the NFL has nothing to do with that. Like that's what's always, I think, people fail to recognize is, yes, they can do their own
his trade request and everything about he was already in the news before this all happened, and that's why I think people,
that was the football story,
including me, is kind of like has combined the two when they're kind of,
and their judgments for punishment do not lock in sync with the legal system. So the NFL at any point can hand down some type of penalty, and that will be a huge story if it happens.
Right.
All right, let's get into the news.
This is the game. 1 second left. Get in, and it will be tied. Locke in the shotgun. Gordon in the backfield. Fakes the handoff, rolling to his right. Locke still looking. Throws. Caught. Incomplete. Incomplete. He was out of bounds. And now the referee's discussing it. Signal on the field is incomplete. Now they say touchdown. After a discussion, they say touchdown. And the Broncos are an extra point away from winning a game where they were dead to rights in the third quarter. Boy, the Chargers have found ways to lose games this season, but this is going to be the most painful of them all. That is
Now, Money, I'm not trying. Money, of course, is the voice of the Los Angeles Chargers with Move the Sticks doing the color. What a tandem, especially Money. I don't play that back with the accompanying sad music to give you any type of PTSD. It's more just to set you up. Money, you've been doing that gig for a few years now.
Which is fun and deserved.
No.
So you're right. It doesn't get any lower than Drew Lock ripping your heart out in a big comeback.
Here is the PTSD portion of that broadcast is remember the games we were watching them on an all 22 feed in a TV studio, right? So we're not in Denver. So that was, I believe, that was kind of like the I'm at my wit's end when I go to my car to drive away. I think that was the one where I really started losing my mind because I had already had the Saints game in which the all 22 was pointed at the offensive line of the Chargers. And so Badgley kicks that field goal with zeros to win the game, and everybody on the offensive line raises their hands as good. And so I call it good, only to then have the all-22 move up onto the uprights and see the referees go like this. And I'm like, and it's no good. And then I have the Raider game in which you had Parham catch the ball, signals touchdown, and the Chargers win. And then I call it a win. And then upon review, no, he didn't catch it. Zeros, Chargers lose. And then that one where I have the camera focused on that one official. I can't see all three. So I only see the one where I call it incomplete, no good. Chargers win, only to have it overturned.
I was going to ask you if you thought that maybe because the Chargers just seem every year they rip out the hearts of their fans. And I was hanging out with a Chargers fan last week, and he had some type of, I wish I remember what he said. We almost always blow it, something like that. But I want to say, do you think that this is the year things change for the Chargers and they're going to be a badass team all year? And then my other question, go ahead. Well, you have to say that.
Of course I do. Look, I think so much of it, look, Justin Herbert had 5 fourth quarter leads. He had leads against Drew Brees in the Superdome. He had leads against Tom Brady in Tampa that the defense managed to let get away. Remember, they were up 24-3 in that game against the Bucs. And the defense, and look, Tom Brady did it to teams all season long. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but I'm just saying the offense was able to put together a pretty darn good year. It was the defense that, for all of the incoming that the offensive line took, and understandably so, it was one of the worst units in the league. Herbert was able to overcome it for the most part, and put up huge numbers and score a bunch of points. And it was the defensive side of the ball that managed to routinely and repeatedly give games away. So
You'll be traveling though, right? You'll be traveling because you're right. I thought about that a lot during the NBA playoffs, especially the first round when they still weren't sending guys. Like, it wasn't the broadcaster's fault, but it just was. It really was so much worse. The broadcasts, and I think everyone. And there was no way to criticize because, of course, it's these professionals in an impossible situation doing the best possible, and we're happy to just watch the live sport. So it was a silly thing also to complain about. But of course, you were watching it. Just at least I was always thinking about that.
You can criticize though these companies that pay for the teams that pay for the announcing teams, and they're seeing, well, we still can wiggle in and use this window and use COVID as a reason why we're not putting announcing teams on the road, and they're saving tens of thousands of dollars in travel and hotel. But at the same time, the product's not as good, and you're putting people in bad spots. Like John Sterling's 100 years old. He's been calling Yankee games for 30 years, and it keeps happening to him too, where he's watching a screen, a monitor, and something happens. Then Susan Waldman, his partner, is like, "This is terrible. We got to get out of here." Like they're so filled with fury. By the way, that Chargers catchphrase amongst the fans is, "We almost always almost win."
Yes, almost always almost win. So I'm hoping this year, different coaching staff, different assistant coaches, certainly some up. I feel like the team is better than they were last year in terms of what they were able to do in free agency, especially with health. Should health hold through training camp? And I remain cautiously optimistic. I believe by the end of the year, I think it was the Raider game, I was in game, right, in overtime. And I do believe I said on the air, DJ, forgive me if I am not going to call that a touchdown and game over. I am going to casually wait here in the broadcast booth for the referee to crack his mic and say, Justin Herbert was in, the game is over. That is now what I have been trained to do through the course. I think that was game 16 through 16 of our 17 games. That is now where I sit. Nothing is a touchdown in 2020 for the Chargers.
Since you're contractually obligated to be optimistic, let me throw it to Greg. And I know you love Justin Herbert, Greg. I'll set the over-under on wins in a 17-game season at 10.5.
Oh, that's high.
That's high.
I guess
9.5.
And then I'll go over. I don't know.
All right.
There you go.
That feels about right.
All right, let's get into it. The deadline for signing a franchise tagged player to a long-term deal came and went since we last spoke with you, and only one guy got a deal. It was Panthers right tackle Taylor Moton, a 4-year, $72 million extension through 2025. Altogether, it's 5 for $85. He's one of the highest paid right tackles in the league, and perhaps more interesting are the guys that didn't get long-term deals. Allen Robinson with the Bears, their star wide receiver, another star wide receiver, Chris Godwin with the Bucks, Marcus May of the Jets, which surprised me that they're not doing business with him, did not get long-term deals, and it puts their futures with their teams in doubt.
It's just a reminder how great a deal the franchise tag is for teams and not for players, because almost none of these were close or that they were even really negotiating. It was something I was surprised the players didn't push a little harder to get rid of. They got the tag, during the last CBA, which is now a couple of years ago. They got a few little upgrades, but for the most part, teams are always, especially now that there's tons of cap space again and the cap is going through the moon, it's going to go up way again next year. It's like it's hard to do this 2 straight years. If you think of who did get signed this year, it was Dak, who was on a franchise tag last year, Justin Simmons, who was on a franchise tag last year. There's another one, and almost no one got 2 in a row. Scherf was the only one, the guard from Washington. And so it's tough to do it 2 years in a row, but teams are just not incentivized to give the money. The Panthers, did it for Moton, which is great, but I've said it a couple of their offensive line looks, other than him, like one of the worst in the league. So it's good they did lock down their best player by far. I
mean, just to echo that, it's exactly why owners fight for the franchise tag, right? Do you really need, considering the breadth of wide receivers available in middle rounds and free agency on cheap deals like we saw with Marvin Jones? I mean, guys that are productive, getting reasonable offers, why would the Bears want to succumb to a $85 or $100 million deal for a player when they can just get away with
because he's their best player? He's the one guy I would think just do it, but Allen Robinson.
I don't disagree with that, but I also think this very well could be the last year for that coaching staff, and it could be a teardown and it could be a reset. So I wouldn't, I don't know if I would want to invest long-term money in that particular position when I can do it next year. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, hey, if this goes really well and Justin Fields is who we think he is, not just as a player, but as a galvanizing force inside that locker room, then I think, well, we'll just be able to sign him next year. You know, give him his $18 million this year. He should be happy with that. And unless he becomes a holdout, you know, and he's not going to report and he's going to insist upon a trade or something. I don't know how all that would work, but like, to me, that makes sense. Same with Marcus May.
The Bucs did it with Shaq Barrett, and they could very well do it with Godwin after this year.
You might have Allen Robinson as number 1, Greg, on your free agency top 101 next year.
Yeah.
You just may. In other news, disturbing situation for Richard Sherman, the veteran free agent who is facing a multitude of criminal charges following an arrest outside his in-laws' home. He was released from King County Jail in Washington on Thursday afternoon. He had a court appearance facing 5 misdemeanor charges connected to an incident in which he was drunk and aggressive, trying to get inside a house. And it's money, kind of a sad situation because Sherman's been such a great player and a great personality in the league all these years. And then you see there's something else going on behind the scenes and you just worry about the person.
No doubt. You know, and I think any of us that have ever crossed paths with Richard Sherman love him. You know, he's a fun guy to be around. He's done a great job in the media. No doubt this will be his second career. He's too good at it for it not to be. I think if he had any designs upon playing one more year, those were certainly dealt a serious blow. With this, we hope he's okay. You saw all the people that have reached out to him, you know, in Seattle, the 49ers, John Lynch, also, whatever you need, we're here for you. It sounds like, you know, his wife wanted to make it clear that no one was harmed, that there wasn't any physical issues. It was, you know, just an unfortunate, perhaps, you know, belligerent in terms of alcohol consumption situation that got away from him. And we hope he gets the help that he needs, you know, if he needs that help. But, you know, I was happy that it sounded like all parties, you know, really wanted to make sure, you know, that it was conveyed that this was not a physical situation, that it was really just, you know, an unfortunate series of events that thankfully nobody was hurt. I'm sure it was scary for a lot of people. And he's a big, strong guy, no doubt about that. When he's kicking down your door, you're probably going to freak out a little bit. But, you know, I let the legal situation play out. Hope he's okay and everybody around him's okay. And again, I think in terms of him playing in 2021, I would say that, you know, I would put the odds on that considerably higher of happening now after this.
Yeah. Well, I had expected him to get a job because he was you know, certainly playing well enough, you know, to get a job. It maybe probably even a starting job or a significant role. I'm glad we didn't tape this like one day after because, well, first of all, there's no takes to be had with this, like a story like this, and there were some bad ones out there. But there was a lot of misinformation too, just even from the police. Like they kept calling it was like his ex-in-laws and some of the details, you know, what you're alluding to that he was trying to get into his in-laws. But it's like, no, he's married. And I think it was important to hear his contrition and his desire to get help, and his wife and family's desire to help him with that. And that happened a few days later when he did do the court appearance. So yeah, you're right though. We might not see him on the field again anytime soon.
In other cornerback news, this on the field news, Xavien Howard, 10 interceptions last season, led the NFL. And that came a couple of years or 2 off seasons after signing a 5-year, $75.25 million extension. Well, when you sign that deal, and then Jalen Ramsey, a short time later, signs a 5-year, $100 million deal, and then you have 10 interceptions, and all of a sudden you're not the most highly paid guy in your own secondary, that's going to lead to some issues, and it does. And NFL Network's Mike Silver reports that there's, quote, a lot of trade chatter concerning Xavien Howard. Could the Dolphins, Greg, move their star cornerback who wants more money? Even though he just signed that deal a couple of years ago, he says that's not a fair contract.
It sounds like it, based on Silver putting this out there, that they're not interested in giving him the money. That was what I really took from this, was that other teams were talking about it, that the Dolphins, sounds like, according to Silver, you know, want a first-round pick for him, which makes sense. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And the Dolphins are the one team that I think are like cold-blooded, even though like, of course they want, they would want Xavien Howard and they're like a team on the rise. Like they've shown us they don't care. Like they've traded some great young pieces before. And so I just get the behind the scenes feel from this board even getting out there that's like, they're not thrilled with this guy because since they've given him this money, he's had 2 seasons. One of those seasons he missed most of the year.
Right.
And in between those 2 seasons, he was arrested for a domestic assault. It's like, and that I keep not seeing that mentioned in any of the analysis with him. It's like, but I have to believe for the Miami Dolphins, who just gave him all this money, he has 4 years left on his deal, that is a factor for them. How could it not be? And he's still like the 6th highest paid cornerback in the league in terms of average value. He's not like super underpaid either. So you really do get the feeling that they're just kind of like, whatever, man, you want to hold out? Like, we'll actually fine you for this. This could actually be a story, I think, unlike almost any other holdout that goes on for a little while if he's serious.
Yeah, I guess, it's hard enough to find one, we keep hearing about how, is the cornerback the most important position in this current state of the NFL? Is it more important than the offensive line? Is it more important than the pass rusher? You better have a lockdown corner. And there's a lot of teams that don't have one, let alone 2. So I do think it's a position of power for the Dolphins if they want to move forward with Jones as their anchor on one side. I mean, I think Xavien, look, he had a great year. There's no doubt about it. I think they're selling at his peak. I mean, I think they could probably fetch a 1st-round pick for him. I know what you said, Greg, in terms of the off-the-field stuff. I don't know how big of an issue that is, but I would assume a team that considers himself a contender or has designs upon being a contender, and I think that's kind of what people always forget when the Rams trade all these 1st-round picks. Kind of the way Les Snead and Sean McVay are looking at it is we don't anticipate this being a pick that's inside of the top 20. Like we are getting rid of selection 22 through 32 for this player. And moving forward, the Detroit Lions, we plan on them getting picks somewhere 28 through 32, 26 through 32, and that's worth it. So I think if you're a team like the Steelers with Minkah Fitzpatrick when they made that deal, like the Rams, to me that lines up. Not all 1st-round picks are equal. This is not the Jaguars trading for Xavien Howard, going into 20. So to me, I think it makes perfect sense that they could find a team willing to float them a 1. Now, like the Chiefs or whomever it may be. I know they don't have their 1 because they just traded it for Orlando Brown. But you know what I'm saying? Like a team in that vein that feels like they're, maybe that's their 1 weak spot and the rest of their team looks like it can contend for a division championship. I could totally see that making sense.
In other news, Saints.
Wait. Greg rolled his eyes. Do you disagree? You're on
Greg,
mute.
No, his microphone doesn't work.
Oh, I had to go on mute briefly because there was like alarms going off in my house. I wasn't rolling my eyes. I don't even know what I roll my eyes so often. I don't even know what it was about.
That's his resting Greg face, money.
Yeah,
you
I didn't know if he was bored. If he was bored with the commentary, if he was disagreeing with the take or what. I just always. We all seek Greg's approval. It's why we never call him out on any of his bad takes, right? Because we never want that to be reciprocated.
I get called out all the time. Stop this.
You all right, Greg? Everything's fine?
I'm good. Yeah, there was, my kids Walker, my son, has a habit of just going into our iPads and different timers and just setting them off to go off throughout the day. He's not even here now, just for chaos, just to bother me.
And I just want to mention, Money, my instincts, just to move on, were spot on, even without seeing the resting Greg face there. So the last minute and 47 seconds of the show. I got you. Sorry.
It's more about this. I'm almost
shaking the rust off.
I'm almost in favor of the almost always in favor of players go get your money. But this is the one time I was like, no, I'm not on the player side for this one is annoying to me.
One player who will not be getting all of his money this season is David Onyemata, the Saints defensive line. One of the best defensive players on the Saints roster will be suspended for the first 6 games of the 2021 season after testing positive for a banned substance. This is a 28-year-old player who really did a lot of damage on the interior for the New Orleans defensive line. 7 sacks, nearly 30 QB hurries, graded out very highly over at PFF, and creates more uncertainty around the Saints. Greg, a Saints team that obviously has questions at quarterback. And then you also don't forget about Marshawn Lattimore, who was arrested in March in Cleveland. So we don't really know his status exactly. A lot up in the air. The Saints really high variance for me where they can land this year.
Yeah, especially because of the defense. They've had a good defense lately, and they've gotten used to that. But on paper, I remember, this is why I like doing the projected starters, writing, other than Onyemata, this is like the thinnest defensive tackle group in the league. And now Onyemata's gone for the first 6 games. So you're a Saints fan, you've gotten used to a good defense. I don't know. Their defensive tackle group looks poor. Their off-ball linebackers look pretty bad. The cornerback situation is very thin suddenly. Like, they've had some bad defenses under Dennis Allen. You remember those days? It was same court. Like, they've had some of the worst defense in the league. And I don't know, they've gotten used to this like top 10 sort of defense. I don't think they should be used to that anymore. You're going to need Jameis. That's why you need Jameis out there throwing for 50 touchdowns. Forget this Taysom Hill, try to win a low scoring game. That's not happening with this defense.
I mean, you can need something. Doesn't mean you're going to get it.
But at least you go for the high variance, high upside guy thing, because this defense isn't keeping. You're not going to be winning these Taysom Hill games like they had in Denver when they were going against their third string wide receiver for the Broncos at quarterback. I can't remember that dude's name anymore. Do you guys remember? I mean, he was the biggest star in the NFL
man,
for like
boy,
a day.
that was hard. That was really hard, and I'd prefer to we should forget his name because that was not fair to that young man.
It was Hinton.
There you go. Darius Hinton. Is that right? No, Darius Swinton's the special teams coach for the Chargers.
Kendall Hinton. Sorry.
I'll just add this. I have very little to add. Then, as you can see in my hand, what I hold, right? It is the bottom half of a blender cup. Yeah. So much like Onyemata's defense, which is I must have taken something that I was not aware of what it is in. Inside that smoothie cup was 2 scoops of Orgain peanut butter protein powder. And I, too, like professional football players, do not check the contents of my protein powder. I simply look for a flavor that I like and is not chalky. And I drop those scoops in, not knowing whether or not perhaps there is something in there that would lead to my getting a 6. I'm guessing, though.
They don't test on-air talent, though. They don't test on-air talent.
That's a good thing they don't, because look how swole I am. Jeez.
Right, Scott Hansen would be in trouble. Like
that. I'm one of those husbands that my wife just sticks something in front of me and I drink it and eat it. Right. If my wife wanted to just knock me out, it'd be that easy. If she wanted to dateline me out of the picture to collect some life insurance,
if she wanted to phantom thread you,
if she wanted to phantom thread my ass,
I probably should not add this, but I will. Much like that, Dan, my formative years were, it did not matter what party, what club, what time, who the person was. If anybody put something in my hand or in my mouth, I took it. And it led to some very, very bad, horrible decisions and many things that I don't remember. But I was the king of, hey, dude, you got to try this. All right. And then let's see what happens.
Any kids listening at home, don't do it. Money.
Don't.
You're lucky to be alive.
But listen, I will say one of those nights ended behind bars for something that eventually was dismissed. But yes, don't do that.
Mike Florio is working on the article right now as he digs through Matt Lenny Smith's.
Well, the funny thing is, of all the nights, right? I will share with you if you care. Actually was the one time that it was mistaken identity. Like I was in the middle of the street at like 2 a.m. and this cop rolled up and on the south side of Chicago, and he's like, "Yeah, you get in." And they threw me in the back of the car with my friend Sean. We're like, "What the hell is going on?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got you." Woman's coming up to the car, and this woman sticks her head in the car. She's like, "Yep, it's them."
Oh, that's terrifying.
And they said apparently we had busted into a building site and we're joyriding a bulldozer around a neighborhood, of which we weren't.
I think you did that.
I don't think you could.
Then that's, I was all pissed off. And when my friend Sean's dad comes to pick us up, we're, bitching and moaning. And he's like, "Hey, how many times have you guys done dumbass S and not gotten arrested?" We're like, "Yeah, probably every day." He's like, "All right, fine. So let's call it even. Shut up. Quit your whining." It's like, "All right, sorry, Mr. Rhea. We're good."
In retirement news.
It's Ginn sidestepping a couple of hits. Still going. Look out. Needs one block. One block and he's gone. Well, he's got one man to beat Strickland. No chance. Back to back. Ted Ginn. This time, 101 yards. And again.
Oh, Ted Ginn, you monster. You monster of my nightmares. That was a 2009 game at the Meadowlands where Ginn ran back 2 kickoffs for touchdowns. That was the first Rex Ryan year where nobody could score in the Jets defense. but Ted Ginn accounted for 12 points on his own with 2 triple-digit kickoff returns, and he did that for a long time in this league. He just retired. He announced his retirement. He was always a special teams ace. There was always offensive coordinators and head coaches who thought they could turn him into a bigger part of an offense. And sometimes he did find a nice little niche, but that's how I remember Ted Ginn, as a guy you did not want to kick it to on special teams.
Well, I wish I remembered in the same way, because unfortunately I'll always remember him, and it's not fair to him, right? As we didn't draft Ted Ginn, okay? We drafted the Ginn family to the Miami Dolphins when he was considered a giant reach at number 9, and I had to pull up the 07 draft. Remember, it was probably the most scrutinized and assaulted pick of the 07 draft. Right behind him, Patrick Willis, Marshawn Lynch, Darrelle Revis, all got selected. Kind of,
yeah. But who are the Dolphins fans chanting for, and who did everyone say that they blew? Their draft because they took Ginn over. It was Brady Quinn. They were literally chanting Brady Quinn's name.
That's
so
a
it's
great
like,
pull.
Okay,
Brady
Quinn's career ended, 7 or 8 years ago.
Ted Ginn had a much better career.
People think of him as like you would be a bust. I'm not saying that was a great pick, but I would guess if you go through top 10 picks, like let's say 6 through 10, he's better than average. He's better than your average top 10 pick.
Sure. To be that type of special team, so no doubt. And I'm not trying to take away from him. I'm just saying I remember.
Not a bad pick. He had like 800. He topped 800 yards many times in his career, including for the Dolphins a couple times. So as a deep threat, like stretching the field plus the special team, he had a couple big playoff games for the Saints when they got taken out a couple of years ago. 2017. It
was Mike Sherman, right? Wasn't Mike Sherman the guy who did that speech?
Yeah, Mike Sherman had a lot of bad.
I think that's who it was, right?
Over the years, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just no, it was Cam Cameron.
Oh, that's
it was Cam Cameron who got his shot after being interim to be the head coach, I think, and that's anyway.
I'm gonna fact check you there, Greg. He never even reached 800 yards, but he had 700 yards like 5 different times. His biggest year as a wide receiver was in 2015. Then 30 years old with the Panthers. That was the big Cam year. He went 44 for 739 and 10 touchdowns. So
a couple of very similar ones. Yeah, with the Saints and a couple big playoff games, like I mentioned in that year where they lost to Minnesota in the playoffs. It's like Ted Ginn added some.
I would have never guessed Ted Ginn had a double-digit touchdown season though as a receiver.
I would have never guessed that.
Interesting. But that was a special year for the Panthers with Cam Newton, 2015. All right. In other news,
Brady Quinn. They were outside in one of these little tent things where they invite the fans in and stuff.
Now it's funny. This is terrible. This is also terrible to say, but I always appreciate the quarterback that sits in the green room too long. And remember, Brady, and I love Brady. Anybody that's ever been around him, he's such a great guy to be around in the media. He's self-deprecating. He does not care. It's a lot of fun to have him in the media with us now. But I remember he was gelled to the nines. His hair was so gelled.
Oh, yes. I do remember that.
And, he's all swole. He's like people that have ever been around Brady, they don't realize how big that guy is. I mean, he is freaking giant. He is a legit 6'6" and swole, but he had a girlfriend with him. And the second she came on camera the first time, I said, she looks like a dipping bird. Like, those little birds where you put the water in the bottom bulb and it just goes bloop and keeps over. Yeah. And so every time they cut to her, for some reason, I was just sitting in my living room watching the draft going, bloop, bloop. So had to wait.
Now I have to go check out the video of this.
Yes. Exactly.
I remember.
All right, my apologies.
We were at the 2013 draft at Radio City. That's when Geno Smith sat in the green room for the entire first round. And then I think the Jets were on the board for the first or second pick of the second round. They took Geno. Geno stayed in New York and went back to Radio City, but he changed out of his suit and put on a pullover sweater. And I think that was in defiance of the draft industrial complex or the failure of the teams to respect him. And then he did not have a great attitude when he went on the stage either. Like, he was pretty annoyed. Like he had to be talked into going back. It seemed like not a great look in retrospect. Greg, I know you will defend Geno Smith to the end, but how about you put another suit back on? Let's be serious. You're in New York. Well, buy another suit. Don't tell me I just had one suit.
Ready? I've got an exercise. I know I've already.
Gil Brandt told him he was going top 10. It's not his fault, you know.
Oh, that's a shot.
What does Gil Brandt know?
I want you to go to YouTube right now, even though this is an audio format and everybody listening along. Maybe we can play follow along. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to go to YouTube right now. I want you to type in Brady falling, Cowboys big trades, and more. That is the name of the video. It's got 356,000 views, and I am now at the 11-minute, 32-second mark. And I have got Brady Quinn on my screen, and his hair is so much more glorious and gelled and mulleted than you could. I mean, he looks like he's freaking CC DeVille getting ready to take the stage with Poison. He's in a pinstripe suit.
It's bad.
He's got this Michaela Maroney style look of disgust and pout on his face. His
handsome guy
girlfriend is right next to him. It is fantastic. It really is. It is.
Well, it's a tricky. And there's the girlfriend. There's a.
Do you agree, Dipping Bird, or no?
I don't know if I can agree with that sentiment in 2021. She looks like a fine person, Money.
I'm not saying she's not a fine person. I'm just look. There are certain things that some people say I look like a thumb. That's fine. I'm okay if I look like a thumb. I got a small head. It's
weird. No, I think you get into trouble when you have the long hair like that. If you put too much product in, it looks like an oil spill. And that's what happened to Brady Quinn in the biggest of all spots.
By the way, I made a Michaela Maroney reference. And for those that don't know, Brady Quinn married to an Olympic gymnast.
Really?
Yeah, Sacramone. I believe he's married to Alicia Sacramone.
Let's keep an eye on their offspring in the professional realm going forward. Speaking of Brady's, this is a different Brady. It's Tom Brady. And the Tampa Bay Times reports that Tom Brady played through a partially torn MCL for the entirety of the 2020 season. And now NFL Network's Ian Rappaport came in. He said it was a full tear. I mean, the man's a hero. But I just want to say this, Greg. You tend to get on certain people, Russell Wilson, for trying to drive the media or drop things, nuggets that will make him look good or accomplish certain things. And you know I'm back on the Tom Brady train. I'm finally on the Tom Brady train after years of relenting and pain. But I have to say, some of the Brady stories that come out, it almost feels like he has an entire PR team and they have a calendar. And after, let's say, 2 weeks, it's like, let's drop a little nugget out there and all these little insiders will be chomping at it. And they make sure to get it out there. And
I like it.
If you're going to attack Russell Wilson for trying to manipulate the media for his own gain, Tom Brady's doing the same thing, bud.
Russ would have had it out during the season, right after the season, all throughout. The timeline of this indicates to me it just sort of happened naturally. You know, somehow this. You know, and Ian only jumped in and really was almost rude. He gave him a quote tweet. Actually, I had to text Ian about like Rick Stroud's got this big breaking news. This guy's got a partially torn MCL, and Ian immediately goes for the quote retweet.
No, you can't do that.
Actually, it was fully torn. And I was like, did Stroud come at you for this? Because, you know, I wanted to know. Stroud, I think, total professional. He wasn't upset with Ian, but that tells me Ian was sitting on this news. He knew it all along, and he wasn't ever going to report it. But then,
that's a bad job by. That's the truth. That's a bad job by Ian, because that is something
But they have this stuff all the time. You know how it works. They're told they can't do it. He had it the whole time, and then once it was out there, he's going to clarify the situation and get.
Maybe that's why Ian didn't tweet it out, because he is a power broker in the game of NFL information, right? And Brady's people were telling him, "Hey, I want you to hold this. Maybe we start the season 0-2. Maybe Tom throws 3 picks in the first couple. Then we're going to strategically drop. Oh, by the way, you know that guy won the Super Bowl on a fully torn MCL. Ian, you're a go. Yeah. Hey, Ghost Rider, you're a full go. Let that thing fly. You know. So maybe that's
why. A good call. It's like he had it in his back pocket. They were going to give the go team go signal to the insiders, in this case, Ian. Like when Brady threw 3 interceptions, and this sticks on a lot of people's craw. Not me so much, because I'm on Team Brady now, Greg, as you know. But he threw 3 interceptions in the NFC Championship game. If the Packers were able to take advantage of that, and win that game, that MCL tear story comes out Monday after the game.
Comes out then.
Or what
I
if
could buy that? This bothers me.
How about this
less,
hypothetical? How about this
then-
hypothetical?
okay.
Let me get in here real quick, Greg, and then you can take it. Teams are about to show up for training camps, right?
What was in that protein shake, money?
A lot of cocaine. So I'm so excited. We're going to know immediately who's vaccinated, who's not, based on guys just wearing masks or not wearing masks, wearing wristbands. What if Brady's one of the unvaccinated? And that becomes a huge story. And instead it's like, hey, fire that MCL story off. Let's get this unvaccinated. I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I'm just saying maybe that's the next mountain that some of these players are going to have to climb once the media sees. Hey, is that guy wearing a mask or is he not wearing a mask? What's going on over here?
It did get Brady. Brady has been in the news. The floodgates in terms of leaking to the media and keeping Brady in the news are definitely open post Patriots. I mean, it is a different vibe. But what annoys me most about Brady right now are the tweets from people who should know better that are just like, it's scary how good Tom Brady is at this social media game. And I'm like,
I hate that.
Tom Brady is the least funny person ever. We've had decades of experience seeing him not, be like a humorous guy. That's not his strength. And suddenly everyone's like, wow, Brady's got these great zingers and, gifs on Twitter. It's like, you think Tom Brady is really pounding the Twitter pavement. Give me a break. How do people fall for this stuff?
I do think, however, because he isn't funny at all, I do think he has his own. I do think he runs his own Twitter, Greg. And I think when he got that thing to work against Bryson, he hit it so hard.
Right.
I mean, it was just like the same joke over and over and over and over. It's like, we get it. People laughed. It was funny. You took a shot at Aaron Rodgers. It was great. Enough.
He hired the best social media team money can buy because he's Tom Brady. Why wouldn't you?
In other news, this story concerns me because that I have a lot invested both financially and emotionally in the Kicker Club. And Younghoe Koo had an incredible season for the Atlanta Falcons last season. He was first team All-Pro. Did you guys know that? First team.
Sure did.
He got his Jeep stolen. And guess what's in the Jeep, bros? Oh, no. His lucky cleats. Here's what Koo wrote on Instagram in a post that showed an empty parking lot where his truck used to be. That sucks.
I love that.
MFs stole my Jeep, SMH. MFs means, SMH, shaking my head. Can you just bring my cleats back, though? I won't even be mad, bro. Just bring all my cleats back so I can go kick. How about a reboot, money? I know the one of my favorite movies of all time, and one that as a child I watched endlessly, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. When Pee-wee goes on the hunt for his stolen bike, ends up in the Alamo. There's no basement in the Alamo, Janet Hook said famously.
No basement. How
about Koo looking for his cleats, a modern updating starring an NFL star?
I can get behind that. I can get behind that. He's a dynamic personality. I will say...
You're casting Koo in this, though, right?
Yeah, he's 100%. Playing himself.
Okay, good.
100%.
Absolutely.
He looks like
looking for his Jeep. Do we know where it was? Was he in the greater Atlanta area? Was he in his hometown? Where is Younghoe Koo? What is the backdrop?
Yeah, let me dig in on that
for this.
A lot of stolen vehicles. Janoris Jenkins left his $300,000 car at the airport for 3 weeks, and then was surprised it wasn't there.
It's very smart.
Did you guys ever have a car stolen or a significant break-in?
I had the doors of my Jeep stolen by a crackhead.
The doors?
The doors. Yeah.
Why do you think it was a crackhead? Because that sounds like a professional job to get the doors off.
No, on a Jeep, they just slide right off because you can drive around without doors on a Jeep Wrangler. So, and I know he was a crackhead because when I showed up at the courthouse wanting to fight the guy the day they arraigned him, they were like, hey, take it easy, man. The guy's really in bad shape. He's a drug addict. He was living on the street. He stole your doors so we could buy more crack. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I guess I'm supposed to have compassion for this guy. And I had to drive around in a car with no freaking doors on it for 2 weeks.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
What about you, Greg?
I had a car stereo stolen in New Orleans when that was a thing, when car stereos were a cool thing that you could detach and have stolen. That's about it, though.
I'm still looking for the source of where the Jeep was stolen. But
what about you, Dan? What's been stolen in your life?
I've been lucky. I've been lucky in terms of on the car end of things. But I have a close buddy who I actually just spent a weekend with. It was good to see him. And we went back to his car. This is like 1999. And the side window was broken. And two things were taken. His bathing suit, his swimsuit was gone, and this one hurt, especially in 1999. And this will connect with you, Money, as somebody that loves music and worked in the industry. Your giant book of CDs that you would take with you, and you would have your entire music collection, 200, 300, 400 CDs worth thousands of dollars. And that got swiped out of there as well. And that was a crushing moment for my buddy.
Yeah. I like the idea of Greg rolling into a party in high school with his pull-out Alpine in his hand going, "What's up?" Just like hanging out all night with his car stereo, walking around because he had a pull-out.
It's like a MacGruber while traveling everywhere with his car stereo.
Right.
All right. Finally in the news, Adrian Peterson does not have a job. He's staying in shape. He tells Sports Talk 790. Hopes to sign with a team before the season starts. He wants to get a ring. Since he's come into the league in 2007, he's piled up an outrageous number of stats in the rushing game. I think he's in the top 5 all time in rushing. Of course, had that 2,000-yard season coming back from the blown out knee. But now he just wants to hang around as a backup and get that chip.
I think we'll see him again. He was playing at a high enough level that someone should sign him at some point, whether it's in camp after an injury or during the season after an injury.
All due respect on AP, the Bill Parcells-ism, he's a progress stopper at this point of his career. Don't you want a younger running back that's more dynamic? Get a look at him rather than Peterson slamming into the line for 3 yards every time you give it to him?
He ran better than that last year, though. I'm just basing it on what the tape shows. I'm just telling you what the tape shows. He was legitimately an average to above average, like early down.
Above average?
I think so. Okay. Like just in terms of his bursts and like you're right. He's not going to be breaking, and he's got limitations. So that puts him below average. He's not going to help you on passing that. He's got limitations, but yes, he's better than some guys out there. He's better than some guys out there for sure.
I would just add quickly, there's, it's the position with the most attrition. So he's going to get brought in for tryouts. Right, exactly. And if he beats out the guys that they bring in that are still sitting out there, then he'll get a job.
And to your point, Greg, he averaged nearly 4 yards a carry, 7 touchdowns, surprisingly, with Detroit last season in limited work, 10 starts. He's beat up. And there are several well-known veterans still out there, Greg. Did you take a look at the list?
I did. There's a lot. Mitchell Schwartz, he's coming off an injury. That's like a quality player if he decides to play again, is healthy enough. Justin Houston played a lot last year, pretty well. He's not on a team. KJ Wright never went back to Seattle. Kind of thought that would happen. K'Wan Short might be done, but he's only a couple years removed from being like a first-team All-Pro and isn't that old. So there's still some names out there. Sherman is another guy fairly high on that list before all this happened, but we went over him.
I was going to say, was there any in your top 101 of this year? I assume Sherman was on that list. Anyone else that was
I was just reading off of that.
Okay.
Houston was pretty high up there.
And what other obstacle for Peterson as we come back around to close it out? He's got a lot of company in terms of the veteran 30 plus or around 30 running backs looking for jobs. I don't know if this is an outdated list, but I know for a fact several of these guys, if not all of them, are still unemployed. Lev Bell, Todd Gurley. Did Duke Johnson get a job?
No,
I don't think so. No.
Okay. That was Peterson.
I love Duke Johnson.
Chris Thompson, Deion Lewis, Devonta Freeman, LaShawn McCoy, Alf Morris, all without jobs. Or you guys do the double checking. I can't.
Get Duke Johnson a job. I guess he's just always going to be underrated. I don't understand it.
That's what's happening in the news. Before we go, we like to do this. We like to check in every once in a while. Especially this year, we are, or this summer, we're spending some time away. Took it a little extra time off, so you have some extra time. Maybe you're laying at the beach. Maybe you're you're surfing constantly. That's Matt Money Smith.
It's not vacation though. That's just,
that's just life.
The ocean is my
That's
gym.
that money life.
You call yours 24-hour fitness. I call mine the Pacific.
When are you going to start sending out those like Instagram posts, like my office for the day? And it's the sun coming over the Pacific.
Yeah. You know what? I did have that moment this morning, Greg. I just didn't post it on Instagram. It was a glorious sunrise as I got out early before the sun came up, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I did take a moment. I even said to Ken and Joe, who were surfing with me, it's like, hey, guys, that's a pretty epic sunrise right there, brah.
That's like the only thing I like in my mind as someone that's never surfed. That's the only thing surfers talk about is just the sunrise and the sunset.
So epic. Everything's epic. Dude, epic.
Greg,
Sweet
what's the pop culture you're ingesting right now? Something that's really you're into right now?
This is tough, because we have a similar thing, the recommendation station on my other podcast, the Jesselnick and Rosenthal Vanity Project.
Oh, you know what? Before we go, that brings me to this. Did Courts of Thunder ever have a final podcast kind of recapping the actual championship match between the Joker?
Check it out. Wimbledon, yeah, it's up. We put it up hours after the show. It's on YouTube. It's our most popular one yet. People are
people are upset, by the way, on the internet, Greg, that you keep on saying Wimbledon, not done.
Yes, it's Wimbledon with a D. Wimbledon, not Wimbledon. You American, you filthy American pig. Wimbledon. If you have a Wimbledon podcast, you should know it's
People
Wimbledon.
Also say I don't say Cam Newton right. I don't say the T. So there's something about the T and the D's and I don't know. That's my bad. I gotta
Wimbledon.
I mean,
all right, go ahead, Greg.
Well, he cut me off here.
Now Greg can't believe he's been saying Wimbledon all this time.
I got a few. I'll go with just what I watched last night though, just because I'm in now. On the new Mike White show, The White Lotus on HBO. It's silly. It's sort of about this, bunch of rich people staying at a resort in Hawaii for a week. It's 6 episodes. They're 3 into it on HBO. Coach Taylor's wife is on
Connie
it.
Britton. Yes.
Connie Britton's on it. It's fun. I like it. I like Mike White. He did Enlightened. If you ever watched that back in the day, I'm in on this show. Cause Matt already shamed me from not being the guy who recommends a book. So I got to come up with a TV show.
I did that before we started. Dan asked, hey, by the way, I have something ready for pop culture.
Screw you. This is a readable book. I'm going to go book 2. A Children's Bible by Lydia Millette is like amazing. It sounds like something that I'm not that into, children or Bible. But it's like, I don't want to give too much away, but it's kind of like kids on vacation, a little bit of Lord of the Flies thing, a little bit of dystopia, very much of the moment of like our coming climate emergency, but in a small way. And they really it really gets how like teenagers have absolutely no use for the previous generation in a very funny.
Oh, Greg, the climate
way.
emergency isn't coming. It's here, buddy.
Right. That's what it's about. So a storm comes and gets a little wild. I would really hard recommend that. It's one of my favorite books I've read in a long time.
What's it called again?
A Children's Bible by Lydia Millette. It's like a quick read, but very smart too. How about that?
Now I got to follow that up. Now I got to follow a book recommendation up. Like I don't read. Hey, how about meathead surfer guy here? Doesn't read. Thanks a lot, Greg.
I mean, when did like you're like I don't want to be that guy. Like reading has been the most popular leisure activity. It's supposed to be fun, and I just do it for fun. It is fun.
I agree. I do it as well.
There's nothing like high culture about it. It's been like the lowest and most popular culture in the history of our civilization. So I still view it as pop culture. It's not nothing great.
Why are you being defensive about books?
Because of what he said.
I had said the way my camera was positioned. Greg and I were joking before the broadcast began. I said, hey, hold on. Let me make sure I got the right books in sight for people. It's not trashy novels.
It's like, you read, bro? Oh, you must really think high of yourself.
I will give you a television program that is easy to consume. I actually watched it last night. It just debuted last night, and it's going to play into my my dumbass surfer persona. But just debuting on, and I will recommend this by pointing out when my wife said, you want to watch something tonight together? I was like, yeah, and we start thumbing through, and I click on the 100-foot wave. on HBO Max. And she's like, are you really going to make me watch a surf documentary? And she absolutely
you're reading the
loved
surfer book right now. You're watching
Barbarian
surf
Days.
documentaries. You're
So
watching
this isn't really a surf doc. I cannot recommend it enough. Garrett McNamara is one of those big wave riders, arguably one of the best in the world, like puts his life on the line every single time he gets into one of these waves. And it's basically about the discovery of Nazaré in Portugal, which I don't know. I'm sure you've probably seen it. Do you remember the news story of the woman that rode the biggest wave of 2020? And it was just this giant hulking wave. And it's about how he found the wave, how the city had to get behind him in order to figure out whether or not this wave was going to kill you or not, and everything that went into it. And it's fascinating. It's eye candy. It's compelling. Yeah, it's on HBO Max. It's really, this was just episode 1. I don't know how many episodes there are, but it's like 90 minutes. Cannot recommend it enough.
Sounds like a good program to get a little loose and then turn off the lights and watch it. Anything else, Mike?
How about you?
Oh, well, I got a couple ones. All right. First of all, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is Quentin Tarantino's novel based on the movie. And if you love that movie, and I know Sessler loves it, and I adore that film, watched it many times now since it came out, I think last summer. It kind of digs a little deeper into some of the storylines from that movie, and Tarantino wrote it. So you have some fun with it. And now even like the format, it's like a drugstore, put it in your back pocket type book and an easy read. You can knock it out immediately. And you should do that and check out that movie if you haven't. Speaking of watching things, Dr. Death. Now, this is not even a show I can necessarily say that is good, but it's on Peacock. I just started watching it with my in-laws and my wife last night. It's about a doctor in Texas who was just a butcher and was he was a neck and spine doctor. It's a true story. It's very sad.
I know this story. Yeah, I know this story. This is terrible.
Was an absolute butcher, and people would go in for fusion surgeries and to take care of herniated discs, things like that are obviously, any surgery is serious, but it should have been 1, 2, 3, and they were ending up either dead or paraplegics, all sorts of terrible things happening. And it's a story about these other doctors who went on a quest to stop him and get him out of the scrubs, because the man was either a sociopath or just completely an incompetent boob. And it was a little harder to stop him than you would think because of the various medical protocols. It's based off a podcast series from Wondery that was huge. I haven't checked that out, but the television series has an amazing cast. It's the Dr. Death is played by Pacey Witter from Dawson's Creek, Joshua Jackson, which is just, if you're a man of a certain age or a woman of a certain age, that's excellent. Christian Slater, who's just chewing up the scenery, is one of the good guys. And Alec Baldwin, my spirit animal, prominently involved as well. So check it out. And then my last thing is, if you like trash culture, true trash culture, and you like really bad movies, good bad movies, movies that tried to be good but ended up being hilariously bad, go spend $2.99 and watch Money Plane, starring the wrestler Edge and Kelsey Grammer.
It's so old, though.
One of the great. It came out last year.
Wait, really?
Take a pass on that.
Money Plane's only a year old?
Good bad movies that I've seen in many years. And I track this stuff fairly closely, like The Room, for instance, which became a sensation. It's not truly a great bad movie unless the people who made it weren't in on the joke. And Money Plane, they were not in on the joke. So check that out if you are into that type of trash culture, which I am. I don't need to tell you about some fancy intellectual book. I'll tell you what I like. That's what I like.
Yeah, Greg.
This is what I'm talking about.
Freaking snob.
You must have loved.
Think you're better than all of us.
You must have loved season 2 of I Think You Should Leave too, Dan. Have you watched that yet? It's so good, so fun. I'm really surprised that people.
He turned his mic off. Dan turned his mic off.
I'm really surprised people say
Tim
that
Robinson,
they liked it less than the first season, because I think I liked it even more.
I think by the nature of that show, it's hit or miss, but when it hits, it's outrageous. And yes, I do like that show a lot.
Hey, Greg, do me a favor. Let's show how smart you are. Close your eyes and reach behind you and grab a book, and let's see what the title is. Just close your eyes, reach behind you on that beautiful bookshelf you placed so strategically, and let's see what comes out of there.
Nice little small one. This is Weather by Jenny Offel. Great book.
Oh, yeah?
Little quick short read.
You better stop, money. You're going to give Greg another esoteric.
Somebody's got to give Greg the business. Someone's got to come on here and give Greg the business. Those are the rules.
I would think
Greg?
that I almost take affront to that theory that no one ever says to Greg that they disagree with him. I do it quite often, but there's just so much to disagree with. The show would go on for 17 hours like this.
Exactly. I know it. That's exactly my point. I recognize that. Greg is a bully. He's always pushing. He's constantly pushing people around here. And like you said, you can't call him on everything or else.
What? Like, the show would go on for 3 hours.
That's right.
Every time money comes on. I mean,
right. Greg, somehow it's like, I heard that, by the way.
Yeah.
I felt that. And I'm looking at the counter and it's only at 1:15. Is that extraordinarily long for an Around the NFL podcast?
Not anymore.
All right.
In the old days, maybe.
I'll cap it at that. I love it, guys, coming on. Thank you for having me.
Money, you said it all.
I did. Way too much.
But we thank you, as always, for joining us, and you know where to find Money. And I hope you'll find him with me on television this September, the Power Rankings program. But we'll be back on Thursday with another show, so make sure you check that out. Like I said, the television program also returns on Friday. And don't forget, Mark Sessler maybe will be back with us. Greg, what do you think? Do you think we've done our last show with Mark? Be honest.
Hey, newsflash, this happens every year at this time. Mysterious ailments, last minute things. We've got through this 7 or 8 times. That's why I'm not worried at all. He always comes back.
The Mark move is have a preset vacation, and then on each side of the preset vacation, dial in a sick day. And then all of a sudden you get a month off.
It's a man who's smarter than I am, that's for sure.
All right, good stuff. Until Thursday, heed the call.